When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching Septum Sin vs. the World. I'm Septum Sin, this is Kotobuki Jake,
Hi.
and we're here to show you what they got.
Indeed.
So, I figured this time around, because our vlogcast is kind of inconsistent when we can do it, because it takes a long time, and time is money, and money is time. So, any case, what we will do is, Jake keeps up with a lot of licensing and stuff, usually anime related stuff, so any of that sort of thing we'll try and throw up at the beginning. But I'll keep an eye out to make sure if there's any Gundam on our radar, but none today.
Right. Well, at the very least this week we'll definitely try it out because we're not doing a vlogcast this week.
Get used to disappointment.
But we saw some pretty exciting licensing news a couple days ago. Discotek is once again pulling some pretty random stuff out of the dust heap, and sorry if we're distracted, but we have a very persistent cat here tonight trying to help. So he thinks. But among the things that they have, I don't recall if Kimono Friends had a release before, did it?
I
don't think it did.
I'm not even familiar with the series.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Kimono Friends is getting a release.
Wait, I know that one.
I know about
That's about the little girls who are the animal. Yeah, okay, that was immensely popular in Japan for some reason.
Right.
It did not look like something I would want to watch.
But among the others, we've also got a Lupin the Third, The Last Job special, which I think is also maybe a first-time release. But some re-releases. ADV had originally released Sorcerer Hunters. Discotek has licensed both the series and the OVA. This should be good. Ayakashi Samurai Horror Tales. I don't remember who put that one out originally.
That is a re-release, yeah.
That is a re-release. And then, if you watch our videos, like you should, you have heard frequent mention of our next title. Viz Media released a very nice 3-part collection of Honey and Clover, and it is way out of print. Thanks to Discotek, it will be coming back into print. And thank God they got it and not Aniplex.
It was Genon that was doing
Yes.
Ayakashi.
Ah, okay.
Who was it you said? Discotek?
Is doing it now, yes.
Because Sentai has the rights. Sentai has the rights to Mononoke, which is the spin-off series.
Ah,
You see it on the sale a
Right.
couple of times.
okay. But yeah, so that we just thought we'd lead with that because, of course, again, Honey and Clover being his favorite show, it's good to see it in print or coming back into print.
And he always keeps abreast of those licensing.
Right. I have to admit a couple more were announced the last couple weeks that I forgot because I just was not taking notes, but there were some interesting ones. But
And Camp Blood 9 has begun filming. Matter of fact, if you are subscribed to Cool Duder, he has done it on the set. And David Sterling has even said that he considers this actually Camp Blood 8 and not Camp Blood 9 because he considers Ghost of Camp Blood Cat to be a spin-off and not a part of the main series. Now that is news to me, so we'll see how it goes. Any case, I know we've been keeping y'all for 4 minutes, so let's roll that beautiful DVD footage right now. good, a lot of fun titles. We got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
So let's just get started. So one movie that's really cool, Stephen King, of course, wrote this, and that is Children of the Corn, which is a Steelbook coming out, which is kind of cool. Again with the cat. It's about a cat that jumps on people's computers when they're filming and messes things up and then tries to drink their tea. But, of course, this is the DVD release. It was done not that long ago. Let's see, this one was 2004. So again, Children of the Corn, classic movie, classic horror. If you haven't seen it and you want it in that 4K, this is your chance. And it's Steelbook. I love Steelbook, but I just cannot afford it right now. I mean, I'm right now trying to rack my brain about how I can afford the Captain Marvel Steelbook when it comes out, because you never know about these releases for the Steelbooks.
Right.
Sometimes they're just wide release and you can just get them all day, every day. And then other times, they're not.
Yes, like I was unable to get Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, who would have thought that that one of all of them would be a rare release? And before that, the other one that I know that was rare when it came out was Logan. Nobody could find Logan anywhere.
I knew Into the Spider-Verse was going to be insanely popular, but it could be that Sony was hedging their bets, because if I recall correctly, it might be all three of the films in the Sam Raimi trilogy, but definitely the first two. You go to any used movie shop anywhere, you'll find a dozen of them.
Oh, yeah,
There's
easy to
so
get.
many copies of them in circulation. So Sony might have been a little gun-shy this go-around. I don't know. But at any rate, speaking of shows that might make certain people rather gun-shy, there is a very fun Adult Swim series that I was pretty heavily into at once upon a time, but it had a really freaking weird release schedule. They would go for months without word of a new season.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was still ongoing, but this week was the 7th season release of the show The Venture Brothers, which, if you have not seen this show, you should see this show. It starts getting, well, it's weird from the get-go. It starts getting weird with season 5, which I think was the last season I saw. The DVD releases do include a lot of not safe for TV material. But basically the gist of it is you have these two boys, Hank and Dean Venture, who really are like Hardy Boys characters. They're detectives who solve mysteries, except that they're both a couple of morons. And their father-ish, Rusty Venture, is a sort of scientist that no one in the scientific community takes seriously. And they have this bodyguard, Brock Sampson, who's played by Patrick Warburton in perfect casting. And then, of course, you got the ongoing villain, the Monarch, and the Monarch's girlfriend/wife, who has a changing name, Dr. Girlfriend, Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, all this kind of stuff. You got all this craziness, but essentially it's a spoof on superhero films, detective films, and James Bond style espionage films.
Yeah.
And it does have some truly disturbing moments, but it also has some truly hilarious moments. They have a lot of good stuff in there, and I'm going to have to... I got the first 3 seasons. They split season 4's release, which always ticked me off, and I just never got around to getting back to it. I kind of, at this point, want to wait for a complete series release, but if you've been getting each season as it comes out, well...
Cartoon Network is known for having these weird release schedules.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not the only series like that. I mean, look at Rick and Morty, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's another one that's just all over the place. I think Steven Universe is a Cartoon Network, I think, isn't it? That one has a very odd release schedule. It's sometimes they're whole season, sometimes the episode lengths are different. It's just very odd.
Yes, very odd.
Speaking of very odd, I had traditionally really liked Rowan Atkinson. It's Atkinson, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
For his role as Black Adder in the series Black Adder. You guys thought I was going to say Mr. Bean, huh? I have yet to see an episode of Mr. Bean.
Really?
I've only seen the 2 movies.
I think I saw the first movie.
So, to me, he comes across as an entirely different character than the one he plays in Mr. Bean. Though, Johnny English is supposed to be a kind of hybrid of those two in spy form. And there's going to be a 3-movie collection coming out. So you can get all 3 of those movies. The first one, which was, well, Johnny English, underwhelmed me spectacularly. The second one, Johnny English Reborn, continued that particular underwhelmingness. The third movie, I don't have yet. I was surprised it got made.
And the third movie, and I had not known about it. And last summer, we had every movie I went to, we see this trailer, and I thought, oh God, it's another Mission Impossible trailer. And then, oh right, no, it's the. And honestly, Johnny English spoofs a lot of the same stuff Venture Brothers does, so I do need to see the series.
The third movie I will probably do, much as I have for the other 2. I will get it, but it's not going to be until I'm done with... until I find it on DVD for $5. Basically, that's how I got the others. This is how I get this one.
And I do apologize for just randomly laughing while he's doing this, but you know we're not watching cat videos. We're watching Cat. But at any rate, next up we have some pretty notable re-releases this week, including several re-releases in 4K. I think Children of the Corn was one, right?
Yes.
But one that's coming up that I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure why it's getting a 4K release, but it's an excellent film that is worth getting. The film The Natural, which was a multiple Oscar nominee, one of Glenn Close's early nominated roles.
Never seen it.
You need to see it. It's Glenn Close, Robert Redford, of course, plays a baseball star, a natural, if you will. And it actually features Kim Basinger in a role where she does well, which I'm not a huge fan of Kim Basinger, but it was a good movie. I am not one of those people that absolutely loves every film about baseball I get my hands on, but I've enjoyed quite a few of them, and this is one of the good ones.
So the first one I have that I actually still have in my collection on Blu-ray is getting a re-release. This is The Troublemaker. Say hi, Troublemaker. Hey. Alright. Yeah. Alright, so, any case, there is a movie out there that I heard about when I watched Anime Abandon. And the person who runs that, Sage, he gushed all over this. This was one of his favorite movies. He talked about how well done it was, how well written it was. And that was Royal Space Force, Wings of Honneamise? How do you say it?
I don't know. I'm looking at it. I think it looks French, so you should know.
Any case, all right.
Anderson.
All right. We are back. And he unplugged the mic, he moved everything. I'm going to leave that in because that was a bit of a fun little interlude, just to show you how destructive cats can be to making videos.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to hand it to all those people who make the cat videos out there.
Yes.
But this particular one, I've heard a lot about. It looks amazing. The animation looks amazing. And right now I have it put aside because we're researching right now for our July list. That's why it keeps getting put off and off and off, because there's a lot of research to do. There's so many good anime movies.
Right.
And we want to make a top 10 that's well-informed. And my top 10 may look very different. And you might see this one again in the top 10. He's back.
Plus, we can both use this as an excuse to watch a lot of our anime movies that we haven't watched yet.
And if you'll see, next week's vlogcast is going to be chocked full of these.
Yes. Well, couple for me. Anyway, my next one is an anime that I've heard only a little bit about. It looks fun. I'm curious. It's a show called Hinamatsuri. It's getting a Funimation release. I think it's its first run release, if I'm not mistaken. It's a fairly recent show. And it's a slice of life series about a supernatural girl and a dude who I think is part of the Yakuza. And of course she ends up living with him. And that's really all I know about it. It looks fun. I don't know anything more about it. But it's on my radar.
So, we have a couple on this list from Funimation's Classics collection. They're the Essentials, which are their low-cost collection, and then there's their Classics, which seem to be their more expensive repackaging of less expensive titles.
Mm-hmm.
And for this one, we have Soul Eater.
Mm-hmm.
Soul Eater has been through a lot of releases. Its original release was 4 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting it $25 a part and thinking, this is great. Then they released it in 2 parts, and the 2 parts together were about $50. And again, I'm like, well, shoot, I didn't get that one. Then they released it in this collection, which I also got for... Okay, cat put tea on my thing. For $25. Which, yeah, you know... not bad. Now, this collection is pretty much this collection, but around $40. Not 37, but you know.
The 2-part one was called, there was one called the Weapons Collection and one was called the Meisters Collection. And that's what I have. And it's a nice little set.
Yeah, and I had upgraded this because it was $25 for, you know, a 50-episode series that I could condense from 4 parts to this and upgrade to Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad deal. And it's a really good series.
It is.
It's about these individuals called Meisters who utilize weapons, and the weapons are living people who transform into mystical weapons.
Should grab your case over there.
And
the Meister on the cover that he had was Maka.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's the main one, main 2 actually. The weapon. I mean, there's the Meister, and then the guy's the weapon, and that's the Pumpkin Witch.
Yes, the Pumpkin Witch Blair. She is great.
But it pulls from a lot of horror tropes. So again, I think that it is a fun series, especially ones that people like, Halloween's stuff and ghost stories and horror movies. They like this. Even though it's more of a comedy and not action comedy and not a horror event.
Yes, the main Shinigami, Death, is actually pretty hilarious in this one. And of course you have his son, Death the Kid, who is so OCD it's insane. And his weapons are a pair of sisters, the Thompson sisters. But the series is also notable in... You will find it on many, 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 many lists if you're looking at creepy characters, terrible parents, villains, because of the character Medusa is one of the all-time worst parents in any show ever. and she's a great villain. She's horrible, but she's a great villain. So yeah, it's good times. So my next one, I have much less to say about. Godannar is getting a Blu-ray re-release. That's all I have to say about that.
What was it about?
I don't. It involves mechas and very busty women. That's all I know.
Yeah, the title is very recognizable.
Yes, this is one of those ones that if you went when I was getting into anime in like the mid-aughts, whatever, you go to a movie store, you would see Godannar all the time sitting there on the shelf. And I'm sure if you asked most people, they couldn't tell you any more than I just did about it. I bought the DVD repackaging that Sentai Filmworks did only when it came down to about $15. I refused to buy it before then. Oh. And I'm not going to upgrade to Blu-ray, but if you don't have it yet, you can now get it on Blu-ray.
You know, we have a few anime buffs on this that watch this. Maybe Phantom Banshee actually would know.
You never know.
Yeah. Any case, my next one, I also don't have a lot to say about. I just wanted to bring it up because it's funny. Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes. I love it.
That just sounds fun. And the DC animated universe is usually fun. And I think it spins off of is it spin off of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series? I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually based it off the comics and went darker.
Or the Bay films.
Oh no, I hope not. That would be stupid. Joel Schumacher Batman meets Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. That's a horrible, horrible idea. Horrible idea.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure that I'll eventually see it along those lines. I like that universe, so I usually like the DC animated universe. It does some pretty good stuff.
Right.
That's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Next one up genuinely interests me, but I had to... It's sad because we looked it up when we were making this list, and I'd already forgotten everything I read about it, so I had to look it up again. But it still interests me, dang it. And that's a show called No-Rin, which is getting an Essentials release this week from Funimation. No-Rin is apparently about a famous idol, Yuka Kusakabe, who suddenly retires, and his biggest fan sends her some vegetables, apparently, and I guess inspires her to learn agriculture. And so it's sort of like a fish out of water agricultural theme. From what I've seen, from what I'm reading and what I just said, it seems like it might be a reverse Silver Spoon in a lot of ways. I still need to see and read Silver Spoon. That is very high on my list.
It's in my collection, but
I wish it was in mine.
That's Aniplex, isn't it?
Our library finally started getting the manga. I'm just reading so many manga already, I can't really justify... But No-Rin looks like a lesser... We had a couple this week where it looked like they kind of reversed gender on shows that we either were interested in or had already seen. But this one caught my attention as one that's at least worth a mention, and I'll be looking for a good price. Yeah.
And oddly enough, the cover art is one that's familiar to me. It's just it's probably because it's Funimation and it's probably expensive, which is why I haven't really bothered with it.
It's not an old show.
Which one is it? A classics or an essentials? I didn't write it down, so I can't remember.
Essentials.
Oh well, then it probably will go down in price, and hit the sales. It might be worth getting.
Yeah, the two this week that are labeled classics actually genuinely deserve to be called classics and essentials.
Yeah.
But a lot of the ones in the essentials collection, I wonder.
So. Next up, along the lines of Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is why I went ahead and said I'll just go with the three of these that are going to be in a row.
Yes.
We have the new Scooby-Doo movies, the almost complete collection.
I love the title.
Now, the new Scooby-Doo movies, they were kind of like 40-some minute specials that they would do, and a lot of us got to see them growing up. I got to see a lot of them, and they would cross over with lots of figures like the Harlem Globetrotters, Batman and Robin, and we are talking classic 60s Batman Robin, voiced by Alan West and Casey
Adam
Kasem.
West.
Was it Casey Kasem? Yeah.
No. If it was 60s, it would be Adam West and
and
Burt Ward.
Burt Ward. I'm thinking differently. Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I'm sure Casey Kasem probably showed up in the show.
Laurel and Hardy,
Yeah.
Phyllis Diller. Phyllis Diller was in a lot. They've got some Barney Fife. You know. Actually, no, they actually did have him as Don Knotts, and he had several ones. But that was a staple of my childhood. I got to watch lots of those. It's actually on my list of things I wouldn't mind getting, but not that I have to get in any time there.
What's up? Well, I can imagine if we get at the library, it's going to be major checkouts on that one. People love them some Scooby-Doo movies.
Nostalgia.
Oh, yeah. So, speaking a little bit of nostalgia for us anime fans, but this one, in a lot of ways, is a stylistic throwback film. Series, but it has a film feel to it. And that is, we are getting a re-release this week, a classics release from Funimation of the series Black Lagoon, which apparently also does include the Second Barrage and Roberta's Blood Trail.
It's a complete collection.
A complete collection. So basically, the gist of it is you have this dude, Rock, I think was his, or at least the name he started going by. He's a Japanese salaryman who is put forward to negotiate a trade-off with some terrorists or something and gets kidnapped. And his employers refuse to pay. They have no interest. And he falls in with this band of mercenaries who, Revy, of course, is the best known one. You've also got, who are the other two? It's Benny, and I can't remember the other one.
Benny and June.
No, but Benny is basically like, and they actually say right here on the back, okay, I'll get to that in a minute. Benny is a computer nerd, he's real laid back. And then the other dude, I can't remember his name, but he's like real business-like, he's like the hard-ass sort of mercenary. And Revy is flat out insane. She's a half-American with a major gun, love for guns, and you don't want to mess with her. And then you also have Bailalaka, who's a head of the Russian mafioso. And this all takes place in a fictional town called Ranipur, I think it is, which is essentially a Southeast Asian sort of in the general area of Singapore, kind of roughly. Basically, it says right here on the back, the way I was going to describe it, when I saw this, I was like, this is anime if Quentin Tarantino was directing, with a dash of John Woo. And that's exactly who they described it in there. If you like guns, explosions, very violent people, lots of blood, but not reveling in gore so much as just bullet sprays and that sort of thing, and a pretty kick-ass rock soundtrack, this is stylistically one of the coolest shows I've ever seen. It's one of the more violent shows I've ever seen. Don't show this to your parents, generally. Or your young children. And Roberta's Blood Trail's even worse. Because Roberta is a maid who will stop at nothing to carry out her mission. Her mission being protecting the young master. And this is a 5-episode OVA that takes this and turns the blood level up a notch. And unfortunately, it's not as fun. But this is fun. I have the old school Guinean release, and I'm going to hang on to it just because that's kind of a rare release. But it would be nice to have it in Blu-ray in a condensed set.
And this is what the set looks like.
Oh, yes.
Who released this one? Funimation.
That's Funimation, yeah.
Yes.
No,
it's just unusual.
Yeah.
Because the Funimation is like so small. It's usually plastered all over. And
I think Funimation's done 2 or 3 releases of that series, and they were the first ones to release Roberta's Blood Trail. Guinean never got around to that. So, yeah.
So, one more with relation to Batman. It's a big one. Because we're not talking about 1. Not 2. Not even 3. but 4 films re-released on 4K individually.
But one of them doesn't count.
And we are talking the original, well, maybe not the originals, but the 90s Batman and Robin films. At least they started in the 90s. Mm-hmm. We have...
Well, these 4 are all 90s.
So what we have...
89 to 90s.
Yeah, and we have, and I'm going to try and get as many on here as possible. I'm kind of delaying it because I probably got to Flash 2 and then Flash the other 2. But, of course, I have a collection of them all on Blu-ray myself, not 4K. But though I wouldn't mind getting releases with some special features. Because the 2, you got the 2 Tim Burton ones, Batman, Batman Returns. Then you got the ones that went off the rails, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And they kind of crashed the series.
Kinda?
I mean, they really kind of... Because the comic book movies had been going up because of this. And then they kind of crashed and burned also because of this.
This series stands as a wonderful... what's the word I'm looking at? Cautionary tale.
Yeah.
About the dangers of studio interference and merchandising. Because they merchandised the hell out of that series.
Yes, they did.
I remember wanting those toys because I was a kid. I wanted those toys.
Remember they had the fast food commercial with it,
yeah.
and they actually put that in the movie in one of the cuts where he drives through the drive-thru in the Batmobile in order to pick it up.
Was that the 3rd or 4th one?
Tail.
But basically, so the first one was actually pretty good. Tim Burton took the film. He went in his own weird Tim Burton direction, but it was pretty darn good. It was a modern gothic film with Batman. It worked really well.
And it produced say what you will, an iconic Joker.
Well, yes. I've always felt Jack Nicholson wasn't trying very hard. He was just like, ooh, I can be crazy. But he's good at playing crazy. And then, of course, Burton went too dark with the second one. The studio freaked and basically said, okay, well, you can't do this. So they brought in Joel Schumacher. And Schumacher apparently was ready to continue the series. And the studio said, oh, no, you can't do that. And so, he was stuck. Because, I'm sorry, Joel Schumacher does not have a strong directorial vision. He can make a decent film. He's a competent director. But I don't see him standing up for what he believes in to make a good film. And the 4th movie was the proof of that. I have not even watched it all the way through. The parts I've seen horrified me so.
They wanted to make it more kid-friendly. And so they kind of went more in the direction of Adam West Batman. And I think that's even what George Clooney was going for when he did the role. And
even there they mucked it up because there is no man alive better at playing Adam West than George Clooney. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
But
it's sad.
Yes. Of course, the worst crime they made, not even counting turning Mr. Freeze into Kindergarten Cop, but with bad puns, and not even counting Bane being reduced to nothing.
God.
What they did to Ivy was unforgivable. I'm waiting for a good Ivy film. Jeez. But anyway.
Well, we are getting a new Batman film, and we'll see how it goes with
Joker?
Well, I mean, what's his name? Joker is coming out with his own movie, and then...
Well, Joker is coming out very soon.
And we're going to have a Batman movie with, with the Twilight star as Batman, so we're going to see how that goes.
Do what?
Well, you know, God, what's his name? Play Edward. God, what's his name?
Robert Pattinson?
Robert Pattinson is going to be the new Batman. You haven't heard this?
No, I haven't heard this. Damn it!
All over the web.
Damn it!
Hey, people thought that
no, I will grant this. Pattinson, much like Kristen Stewart, who I have forgiven at this point, mostly, Pattinson has been in damage control. Twilight wrecked both of their careers. And both of them have been in damage control, taking ultra indie films. And from what I've heard, Like, was it last year or the year before that Pattinson put out Good Time? Supposedly that was a great film.
He's
I've
done.
never seen it.
He's done. I mean,
Yeah.
they both kind of went in different directions. Because
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart kind of rode with it for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
she had Snow White and the Huntress, and basically it was a bunch of roles that had her basically being Bella. And then she finally got tired of it.
No,
and did some
she's
good.
been alternating from the get-go.
And
She's been doing a lot of French
but
films.
she had a lot of child films when
Yes.
she was younger.
Yes.
Robert Pattinson just went straight indie.
Yeah.
I think he did Water for Elephants, and that was all indie from there on. And that was so. And a lot of the films I haven't seen, so I can't really say. But go ahead with your next one.
Well, speaking of films that where a well-known actor and not entirely in a good way decided to completely reinvent themselves, the next film we have is one that stars Andrew Dice Clay. Actually, he's in it. I didn't realize he was in it. I'm talking, of course, A Star is Born is getting an, quote, Encore edition. And here is an image here. And it is apparently an extended cut. I have no idea how extended. They probably threw in an additional song. You know, it was probably something stupid like the Daily Report and Lion King or something like that. I don't know. But at any rate, we've talked at some length about this film. It's a good film. It really is. And
That's my
I
edition
liked
of
it a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about the extended cut, but not super curious. But if you really, really like the film and you wish there was more of it, and you are so upset there was not more of it, well, they
a long
listen to
film already.
your prayers, and well, what is it? 136? Yeah, it's already 136 minutes. So I guess the new one's 180 minutes, maybe.
It's like
I don't
Lord
know.
of the Rings. It wasn't long enough the first time around.
I don't know. No. The Peter Jackson cut of this will be 5 hours long.
Oh my
But
God. There's a
All
reason
right.
why I have yet to watch the Hobbit films, the extended cuts.
all right. So yeah, but yeah, like I said, another chance with Star is Born.
Well, my last one is yet another chance of one that I even put up recently, and I'm not going to talk much about it, as we've already talked about it a lot in the pickup. And that is The Man Who Laughed. Is getting a 4K restoration release. And I would be on top of that release if, one, I hadn't gotten my own copy, and two, if it wasn't $34.
You got to admit, this new copy probably looks a little nicer.
Oh, and I'm sure it has some cool special features. But, you know, again, $34? This is an old film.
Right.
And though I am glad to see it's getting a mainstream release, I can't pay $34 for it.
Right. I wonder if they're doing that because the Joker film's coming out.
Maybe, because, I mean, he is the inspiration of it.
Right. And actually, with someone like Joaquin Phoenix, you can bet he probably had that in his trailer. That was... Okay, so this is the one with... it's... what am I trying to say? Lon Chaney?
No, Lon Chaney was not the one who played him.
Oh.
That was a mistake, and pointed out by one of our fans.
Oh.
Thank you, Light and Shadow, by the way.
Conrad Veidt?
There you go.
Conrad Veidt.
He wanted the part, but yeah.
Yeah. There's some, wow, Zimbo the dog. Ooh, that'll make it right there.
Well, I always watch everything that Zembo the dog was in.
But yes, 1928. I partly want to see this just to see how a film from 1928 can be cleaned up for 4K. I mean, I'm really curious. I've seen some gorgeous Blu-ray restorations of films from the 30s. I mean, I have The Adventures of Robin Hood on Blu-ray, and it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
So, and some of the old Criterion ones from that time period are just, you know.
You gotta wonder.
I'm curious. I really am. And I do need the film, but I'm not paying $34. I'll probably wait till I see it for 10 or 12. But
I might be
see.
willing to look at 20, depending. It depends on how I'm doing financially.
Right. Now, the last one I know is going to be considerably more when it first comes out, but I would happily pay $30 for this if I got a good chance to do so.
Oh, yeah.
And 20 would be even better. Big part of my childhood is getting a re-release this week. There is a complete series collection coming out of Thundercats. Now, of course, anyone who grew up in the 80s, or even part of the 80s, and I'm pretty sure you know this show. It was big in the late 80s.
Oh, yeah.
It was...
Thundercats are go.
Yes, Thundercats are go.
Yeah.
Indeed, and now they are go to your collection.
And they got a brief, like, Avatar-style revamp. And now they're doing a Teen Titans Go revamp of it. So,
The Teen Titans Go revamp of...
Thundercats.
Okay.
Yeah, they're doing that style now.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
it's got people kind of up in the air, but you know, it's to me, I look at Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go is not for me. It's for young children and young teens.
I have to admit, though, they have their moments. I've not watched much of the show, but when I'm bored at the library, sometimes I'll flip through the comic, and I read one this week that just cracked me up. It was Christmas season, and Beast Boy was humming that sort of, you know, he sees you when he's sleeping, he knows when, and then he just has this eureka moment. He's like, he sees you when you're sleeping and when you're awake. He has a list where everyone who's naughty is on there. Santa Claus is Batman. And they all worked together. They all believed it right away. They all worked together to convince Robin that Santa Claus was Batman. And then they went to the Batcave, and Gordon and Batman show up, and they told them their theory, and Gordon and Batman just busted out laughing like, you idiots. And they all kind of slink out of the cave dejected, and then you see Gordon and Batman go, whew. I loved it. I mean, that's a little higher than just for kids, I think.
Yeah, you know, the majority of the regular series is a lot of just basic fart jokes. And,
yeah, there's too much of that.
Yeah.
And the movie had too much of that. Yeah.
And from what I've heard, the movie was actually highbrow compared to the series.
From what I've heard, yes.
So, yeah, what's what you want. But to me, it will find an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that audience would be as interested in this current, in the older incarnation of Thundercats. It's just, it's really, again, generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, we've gone on for a long time this time, so we're going to let you go.
Yep.
But tell us what you want to see, what you can't wait for. Are you one of those people like me who can't wait for the next Camp Blood movie? Are you really excited about any of the licensing stuff? Or are you really, really psyched about the new Medea movie?
Yes, it's the it's the Gundam for certain crowds. Oh, there was no Gundam this week.
Oh yeah, I said that. Gang.
Did you?
Yep.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah, I like to keep abreast of the Gundam in the world. So with that being said, we'll see you on the next one.